One of the biggest differences between the absolute elite mid laners in the world and everyone else is how they position. It is a fundamental concept everyone has heard of, but the actual details of your positioning during the laning phase, very few understand. What's up, GameLeaper? It's the Jizz again, and I am excited as for today's upload because I know each and every one of you is going to learn so much by the end of it. So positioning, why is it so important, and how do we actually do it like a challenger? Now, before we reveal everything you need to know, make sure to hit that sub button if you haven't already, and let's get into it. So why is positioning so important? Well, just think for me. Each time you have died in lane, no doubt your positioning was a big reason for it. Or what about when you last killed your opponent? I bet their positioning was the main reason you were able to catch them out. So it's crucial to master this facet of the game so we prevent death and capitalize on it. But it's also crucial because it exerts pressure, and pressure denies minions. It empowers your allies, it gives you opportunity. Like in high reloads, if you walk up to last hit a minion, chances are you will lose something for it like a bit of HP. But when you do it in lower elos, you don't get touched. So to help clarify what bad positioning looks like, and no doubt we have all positioned like this at some stage, we are going to watch a gold Annie in the mid lane. But before we do, what I'm about to show you will change your life on the Rift forever. You have to understand and look at the mid lane like a challenger would, and this involves thinking about how far you push up in the lane. So are you being aggressive and standing closer to the enemy's tower, or are you being more passive and standing closer to yours? And you also have to think about whether you hold the top side of the lane or the bottom side of the lane, or just the middle. Now we will start with this top bottom idea first because it's very simple, and this has everything to do with the map, and in the early game, the enemy jungler in particular. So if we look at the map, we can see the enemy top laner appear. So this means we can safely assume that Udyr is starting on his blue buff. Therefore, because Udyr is on the south side of the map, and he should be holding the top side of mid. So this is the first factor you have to consider in every single game, the enemy jungler starting point, and this will tell you where to stand in terms of do you hold the top side of the mid lane or the bottom side of the mid lane, because let's face it, no one wants to die to a level 2 gank, and this will prevent all of those deaths in the future from happening. For example, if Udyr was to start at his red buff, and he should be holding the bottom side of the mid lane as a result. But you can see even in gold elo when Udyr starts on his bot side, and this will happen even in higher elos, so many players don't think about this, so Annie just sits in the middle of the lane, and it just shows the enemy jungler is the last champion she is thinking about. But this doesn't mean we hold one side of the lane the entire time. As the enemy jungler moves and the map gets more open once towers are destroyed and champions start roaming, you have to adjust your positioning in the mid lane. So Udyr, because he has started on his bot side, will most likely clear these 3 camps, then transition to the top side of the map by around 2 minutes 30 seconds. But just to be safe from a potential gank, because Udyr can clear these camps and swing by mid, let's make that 3 minutes. At this point, Annie should then move to the bottom side of the mid lane, so she creates as much space as possible from the enemy jungler. And can you believe it? She doesn't do it. This indifferent positioning you're watching will result in you dying way too often, even to the simplest of ganks, so always recognize where the enemy jungler starts. So now that we have our top and bottom positioning sorted out, now we have to think about how far we push up in the lane, and I'm going to number points along this line from your tower to the enemy tower. These numbers just represent where you should stand in relation to the enemy champion. So as you can see, number 4 is the middle of the mid lane, and then we have 3 numbers either side. So in other words, the question we are answering is how far do you want to push up in the lane? Do you want to move towards the enemy tower or stay closer to yours? Now this question is a lot more intricate because there are multiple factors that will influence this decision. The ranges of the mid lane matchup, the HP, the mana, the minions, the cooldowns, the items. But let's keep it simple. So at level 1, everything is even between this Annie and Ahri. They are both full HP, full mana, have 1 cooldown each, have spent the same amount of gold, and the minions are even. But what about the range of these champions? Annie actually outranges Ahri, so this is an advantage we can use, and we use it by positioning further up in the lane. In other words, closer to number 4, because that was the middle of the lane. But Annie, because she is standing more on number 3 than number 4, means that when Ahri goes to auto attack the wave or try to Q the Annie is not in any position to do anything about it, and because of this lack of awareness of positioning in the mid lane, Annie, who remember has the range advantage, auto attacks Ahri no more than 3 times by level 6. 3 times! So what we are going to do is go through this laning phase with this positioning grid in mind, and let's count how many positional errors Annie makes and how many opportunities she misses because of it. So after this not so great level 1, Annie actually has an opportunity to kill this Ahri here, and this is one of the few times she actually uses her range advantage. She auto attacks and Qs the Ahri, which is great, and even though Ahri has more minions at this point, if we look at the bottom left, Annie's Q is very close to coming coming back off cooldown, and she also has her stun. This means that she will actually win out in a trade here despite this minion damage is minimal, but for some reason, because she plays so passively naturally, she runs back and doesn't take this opportunity to get first blood. So in terms of her positioning during this trade, it's actually not too bad, but whenever you have an opportunity to kill your opponent, you should be moving straight for them, pushing further up in the lane, especially in this situation when the minions are barely going to do any damage. But as this play ends, we can still adjust Annie's positioning here, because look in the bottom left again, Annie has her Q, and if you look at the HP difference, Annie actually has more HP than Ahri and also the range advantage still. So for whatever reason, again, Annie allows this Ahri to stand almost on top of the melee minion wave collision, which just gives up so much pressure. This means that when Ahri starts auto-attacking minions and queuing the wave, Annie is not in a position to punish the Ahri for hitting the wave and not her. So again, in terms of that numbers grid we looked at, we should be much further up in the lane. So this is certainly a missed opportunity. And what Annie does for the next couple of levels is something that so many players do in this elo. All they care about is getting their CS up because they have that Blitz GG app installed and they see Faker averaging 10 CS per minute. So people think that if they don't farm like Faker, they're going to lose. But here's the thing, guys, if you position like we've been talking about, you will deny minions. This alone creates a lead, and the only stat that matters in the CS department is yours compared to your opponent's. Now again, in terms of positioning at this point, you can see these three melee minions. Ahri obviously wants to auto attack to last hit. Now Annie has her stun, and yes, she might have a health deficit, but she does have a potion in hand. Ahri has used both of hers, so trading at this point would actually be kind of good because Ahri doesn't have the sustain that Annie has. But she's standing outside of her auto attack range again from the Ahri, so there's no opportunity, and for whatever reason uses her W to CS here. Ahri was posing no threat to the Annie going for this cannon, so all she would have to do is last hit it, and by using her cooldowns, again she gives up pressure in the lane, so for the next 5 seconds or so, she has no real trading potential. Now thankfully Ahri doesn't really punish this, but Annie is positioning kind of okay here. You can see that in terms of the enemy jungler now, so we're talking about your north and south positioning and the east-west grid, she is for the most part holding the south side of the lane, so it's very hard for Udyr to actually execute a gank. And for the first time in this lane, can you believe it, this Annie is actually going to move towards the equator of the rift and pressure this Ahri, but for some reason she decides to W this minion when she could probably just auto attack the minion and Q the Ahri instead. And again, after this she stands back in Narnia, in between these ranged minions and our tower, so the only thing she can attack at this point is the enemy minions, not the enemy champion, and with the range advantage, this is honestly criminal. And to Ahri's credit as well, she positions how she should, much further up in the lane, but this should never be the case when Annie has that initial range advantage. Now at this point in the game, guys, we can see that Udyr dies top side of the map, and this is really important because after this, we don't really know where he will go. Will he go to the top crab? Will he go to the bottom crab? So at this point, because Annie kind of wards this river brush and it gives her some vision of the top side of the map, she should be holding the top side of the lane because it's playing towards her vision. This is something you should always do if you don't know the enemy jungler's whereabouts, but again, she doesn't really think about it. She's too obsessed with getting that CS per minute up, and she misses a bunch of opportunities for it. This even means in this situation, when she should really hard push this minion wave, she's not even in range of the enemy cannon minion or range minions. It's just the furthest melee minion she keeps contact with, and to be honest, with this playstyle, you'd think she was playing a champion like Kayle, certainly not a lane bully like Annie. Again, for the next wave, it's just auto-attacking the melee minion and then queuing it when she needs to last hit it, and this back and forth continues until level 6, so neither of these mid lane champions have backed at this point, but Annie kind of makes a nice play. She ends up chunking the Ahri under her tower, and if we look at the HP difference here, we can see that Annie obviously is winning in this department. So because this is a condition in the lane, how does that influence how we want to position in terms of the east-west positioning? Well, this means that we want to move further up, but even with Tibbers right next to her, Annie is still so scared to move up here. At this point, she really has complete control of this matchup, also has Ignite, so really shouldn't fear anything. So her positioning should be a lot more aggressive, but again, all she cares about is getting her CS numbers up and looking good on OPGG, so she misses out on kill opportunities and opportunities to deny Ahri golden experience in terms of minions. Now we do have to think about the enemy jungler here, so Udyr was top side of the map, so Annie should be holding the south side of the lane, which is actually kind of what she does, so that's good. But you can see that Ahri is pretty much so why on earth in this situation aren't we looking to pressure her? Even moving beyond the minion wave would be a good idea, simply because Ahri doesn't have enough mana for a round of spells, and even if Annie was to get charmed, she can still retaliate and kill her opponent. And what happens after this is one of the worst things anyone can do in the mid lane. You can see this advantage Annie has in terms of HP, in terms of mana, and even minions as well. She has the push, so if a fight breaks out, she 100% wins. But for some reason, even with the Ahri this low and low on mana, she decides to use her spells on the minions and not the enemy enemy champion, and then she decides to base. Dear me. This gives up all the pressure she potentially had and lets Ahri completely off the hook. The good work she did where she ulted the Ahri and actually comboed her and got a low HP, it's completely undone. Like, what even was the point of it? So because of Annie's positioning during this laning phase, guys, it's like a handshake mid lane, where neither of these players do anything, and as a result, opportunities are missed, and this player would be much better off picking a scaling champion who just wants to CS. No point in picking Annie if that's how you're going to play. So take these positioning tips with you guys and the grid with you in your games, and try to visualize it, of course, in the mid lane. It will help you so much. And if you did enjoy this video, remember to leave a like down below, and also make sure to check out the GameLeap website on your way out, linked in the description and comment section. We have the best challenger courses, guides, highly leveled analyses, everything you need to become the best player you can possibly be. It's all on our website, so get that exclusive access by signing up. And until tomorrow's video, this has been the Chiz.